Hi. I'm just doing this live because it seems to be easier while I figure out my new computer and its webcam functions and everything. But now I wasn't originally gonna do a vlog or a video about this, and part of me looking like a hermit, or what did the one person call me? Oh, like the one person said in my previous video comment section, a dyke crackhead. Pardon my appearance and my extra shiny lips. I just put on a lip scrub. It's cold here. It's literally snowing outside. But I originally wasn't going to talk about this topic just because I didn't feel like it pertained to my channel. It pertained to me personally, seeing as how I started getting into Channel Awesome, the Nostalgia Critic, specifically around 2012, maybe 2011. But I had been watching people from that channel for a long time before I even knew they were a part of it. Like Angry Joe, I think, was one of the first people from that channel that I ever watched. Then I started watching Linkara, Obscura Lupa, a couple of her things, Spoonie every now and again. Oh, sorry. Alarm went off. But anyway, I didn't feel like this pertained to my channel with the whole change the channel, not so awesome document that came out until the bits about sexual assault and the late response Channel Awesome had to it. And then them completely bombing not once, but twice with their responses. And then the second one fucked up on a level I didn't even know you could fuck up on. So, where do I start? Okay. I'm not going to go into the whole not so awesome document thing, but I will tell you where my knowledge of this whole thing started. It was way back a few years ago when Obscura Lupa, Allison Pregler, who I've seen in person a few times. She's a very lovely woman. She got fired from Channel Awesome. And at the time, it was her, Phelan, Kyle Calgren from Browse Held High, and somebody else, I think, who left with her. But she got fired for putting what it was a lot of things leading up to what it was essentially was that Mike Mashad, who is the CEO, I guess, of Channel Awesome. It's not Rob and Doug anymore. They're like, I would almost call them just the co-chairs at this point. It's really Mike Mashad's operation now. We're going to get to that in a minute. But he had a problem with her putting in a lot of mid-rolls. But this was also around the time where Channel Awesome wasn't allowing their content producers to plug their Patreons. And Patreon had just, started to become a viable source of income for a lot of people. And this was especially before the adpocalypse hit like full mast. So she was putting in extra ads and he got on her for that. And she's like, I can't pay my bills. I literally cannot pay my bills. And if I can't pay my bills, then I'm going to have to go find work. But if I go get work, that means I won't be able to put up videos and you're going to be lacking. You see where this is going? And eventually, I guess she just said, if I remember correctly, she just said, fuck it, and did it anyway. And it all led up to the infamous Skype conversation, which is listed in the Not So Awesome document, where she was 15 minutes late to a Skype call with them. And because of it, they fired her. And she was like, wow, that's the fastest I've ever seen you respond to Skype or email or anything. And that's when I heard about just the trickling effect of Channel Awesome. And I have to say, it perturbed me. It really did. When I read about how they treated her, and then a few other stories started coming out. But they weren't like this. This document is like, which is still growing. The last time I checked, Iron Liz actually contributed to it. And I hear the fan document is still growing. But like, this document almost is like a magnum opus. Like, imagine if you and a bunch of your employee friends who were badly treated at another job found out that, you know, the supervisor who treated you like shit was going to get a promotion. Be like, it's kind of like a we will not let this happen to anybody else situation. So they got, you know, you combine your powers and you make one big note to his boss to try to stop it. And this is pretty much what it is. It's like a bunch of them coming together to be like, look, these people are actually really fucking horrible. You shouldn't be supporting them anymore because look at how they've treated us. Look at how they treat you all. Like, look at how they have just, it's been years of neglect. And it almost always seems to stem from when Mike Mashad came. Now, I'm not saying that Rob and Doug are innocent in all of this. If anything, they have, to me, they become enablers. And I don't know if it's because of the way the Nostalgia Critic writes are broken up, but just the way that they're enabling this guy, like they've given him the keys to the candy factory and he's going nuts, you know, like it's just ridiculous. Now, if you want to read the whole document or if you want to hear somebody else read it and also read the response to it and then the second response, I would actually recommend that you go check out Frederick. I can never pronounce his last name. Frederick at Down the Rabbit Hole. Just look up Down the Rabbit Hole. It's an amazing series. And he also did a live reading of the Not So Awesome document before it was updated. The last I checked, the channel also responds. And then he did another video response with also a mini interview in between. And I guess there's one thing that, like I said before, that led me to talk about this was that in the Not So Awesome document, there were 2 anonymous accounts from 2 Jane Does about sexual assault. Now, one creator earlier in the document, who was a male, by the way, documented his sexual assault or sexual. He was a victim of sexual deviancy, if that's the right word for it, because I don't believe he was, if I remember right, I don't know. I'm just going to call it assault because I can't remember clearly now. But he did list that he was solicited a lot of times by this one content creator, Mike Ellis, for like a long time. And like one time for 2 hours straight, he was calling him, trying to, you know, get sex out of him, calling him a sexy cupcake and shit like that. And eventually he told Mike Mashad, and Mashad pretty much said, God damn it, I told him not to do that, or I told him to knock that shit off, and pretty much just said, I'll handle it. And I think it ended up leading to him getting fired down the line. But apparently this wasn't the first time, nor was it like, it wasn't the first time that happened. And then Mike Ellis also apparently went after a different content creator to the point where this woman had to be another content creator or somebody else, where it got to the point where Doug and a few other people had to escort this woman to a safe house because they were afraid that Mike was going to come after her. So these 2 Jane Does are not the only documented account of sexual assault in the Not So Awesome document, but it seems like their cases got taken later than this guy's. But I mean, that from the way he wrote it, it sounded like the moment he complained about him, I guess that time it stopped. But then again, this was also another content creator. Who's to say that there were different ones who Mike Ellis, you know, might have been soliciting, who didn't want to come forward and say anything, or how many times this happened to the point where Mashad was just like, God damn it, I told him to stop doing that. You know, like it shouldn't take you that many times, especially if your employee. I know they say they're not employees, but in this context, I'm going to be calling them employees. When your employee is telling you, hey, this other employee is sexually harassing me or sending me sexually explicit stuff, this is not okay. Tell him to knock it off or blah, blah, blah. And he has a constant history of it. 1, that's not professional. 2, if anything, it makes the company look bad. 3, you're making your entire staff uncomfortable trying to accommodate for this one person who is probably very easily replaceable. And it took you that long. So let me go back to the other two, the Jane Does. Okay, so there were 2 anonymous Jane Does who came forward and said that a content creator, one said that they had been groomed at the age of 18, which legally, that's not like, it's not illegal because of age of consent being 18. I know it is lower in other places, but overall in the United States, once you are age 18, you are an adult. So you, legally speaking, you cannot groom an adult, but that does not make it any less icky or any less wrong. Like, still, morally at least, there is still a big age difference between when this person and the abuser met, and it's still yucky. It's still disgusting. But, one was an account of grooming, and then one was straight up sexual assault, going to pretty like graphic detail about it. You can all, if you want to look at it and you want to read about these accounts, it is in the Not So Awesome document. But the thing is that these 2 women, their names were not revealed, and they did not reveal the name of the accuser, which everybody thought was interesting. But when you think about it and you think, well, it was a creator on the site, they probably don't want anybody to know who it is, because if they find out, then they're going to try to find out who these women are and just go to harass them, because that shit happens. It happens all the time. Like, the internet does that, especially if it's somebody who's beloved. Sometimes people can't wrap their heads around the fact that beloved people do fucked up shit. And, an apparent, I'll get to that later. But, so these women sent their story to channel, to the Not So Awesome document, went out that way. So Channel Awesome made a first response, which was a piece of shit, pretty much just saying, well, I'm sorry you felt that way. And the second one was an even worse response, to the first response, which was essentially them trying to disprove the document, which they didn't end up doing. And actually, I'm making this video after seeing Mars Girl's response video to it, because in their haste and their ultimate stupidity, Channel Awesome revealed who the abuser was. How the fuck do you do that? Like, turns out that with the way they blanked it out, which apparently people were they were just able to find out the name, and from the description and the actual time logs of it, they found out that the abuser was Justin Carmichael Juwario, or more known as Juwario. Now, me personally, I've never watched a Juwario video. I only heard about him, unfortunately, when he passed away due to suicide. Angry Joe did a video about it. He was very distraught because I guess they were really good friends. And then, of course, Sage on Anime Abandoned had a bit of a tribute, and it was really sad. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss, blah, blah, blah. But this comes out, and it seems like not a lot of the creators who contributed to the document only found out about it when the document was getting ready to be made, because one creator apparently knew the Jane Doe, and she wanted to add on to it. And that's when everybody was like, well, who did it? And that's when they found out, and they were like, oh. So the fact that they did allow this woman's story to be told, or these women's story to be told, and these are only 2 out of possibly many other victims, not including possible indiscretions in his marriage. Like, he... I'm glad that they allowed them to speak, even though that was their friend. I know it must be very difficult to find out that your friend must have been doing something completely abhorrent and just despicable and disgusting, and the fact that they allowed these women to speak without just casting so much judgment. Oh, hello in there. Hello to the chat. But the fact that they allowed him to speak, I really respect that. But anyway, so continuing from there, because of that, of course, people now know who it is, and of course, people were trying to find out who the Jane Does were and go after on that whole thing. But this whole situation now has kind of come back to what I said in my John K video about putting creators on a pedestal when you don't really know them, or if it is known about their behavior, trying to cover it up and make it seem like it's not that big of a deal, or that it's just completely non-existent. Kind of like what Channel Awesome did, because according to Mars Girl in her video, the chat logs that they put out there, Channel Awesome, weren't even pertaining to either one of the Jane Does in the Not So Awesome document. That was a completely different person. That wasn't even one of the two in the doc. That was somebody completely different, which means that they handled that situation poorly on its own merit, even if it was still pertaining to Jew Wario. So you didn't disprove that you did the right thing for the other two. You did prove that you tried to do something for this woman, but it took you that damn long to do it. And if those two went to you before, and then this woman comes in, so then that means you've had probably 2 prior, now 3 people come in to tell you about this, and you just decided to you just now decide to let him go? What kind of fuck? I believe this requires your attention. Forgive the interruption, but I believe. Sorry, telemarketer. But it's just, they tried to show like, oh, hi, I see you, Billy. I'm trying to get through my thing. But like, I'm just amazed. And I guess this whole thing with Channel Awesome and Change the Channel reminds me so much of what is happening now with John K. and just exposing people in the industry for behavior that has gone unchecked or buried under the rug for so long. And I'm just glad that it's getting out in the open now. Now, the Jew Wario thing is a little bit special because Jew Wario committed suicide. He is not here to explain himself, to give his side of the story. And if these accounts, which it seems there are many, and they seem to be corroborated, and at least one has a producer to back him up from what I've been hearing, that he is not here to hurt anybody else again. I feel bad for his family, for his widow, who having to go through all of this. And it's just so telling about how a document that was just meant to expose the poor work conditions and poor communication of a little internet site blew up into a big, a humongous thing, like almost the likes of a John K. scandal. And I guess in closing all of this, I'll cover a few things. One, I still send out my support to these women who were assaulted and who want to come forward. And I would not be surprised if there would be more in the future. Just keep an eye out for that. Now that the producer's name is out of the bag, just might as well. Two, this is a message for Doug and Rob. You all need to lawyer up or do something, because Mashad is going to get you all into so much trouble. Like, that whole response that they made sounded like Mike Mashad, and it buried them so deep and just let out a whole bigger can of worms, and might have put these two Anons' lives in danger. From being harassed, maybe potentially stalked, something along those lines. You never know. But it you need to lawyer up figure out whatever the fuck you're going to do with the nostalgia critic rights. Do something. Get this man out of here. Get this man out of here. He is going to destroy you. Third, I don't know okay, so I didn't mention this before, but according to Mars Girl in her video, a lot of producers who did do crossovers with Juwario or had cameos with including him, a lot of them are either taking down the videos, censoring out his cameos, or even replacing them entirely and re-uploading the video. And I don't really think that's the right way to go about it. I think that what she mentioned to do is good because apparently she made a whole 2-hour movie with the guy and she wanted to leave it up essentially because of all the hard work that was put into it by other people and had a disclaimer, which I think is a bit different as well from the John K situation. Well, actually, it might be the same for John K, and this is what they might be able to do to save like Ren and Stimpy reruns as well. Have a disclaimer, kind of like what Warner Brothers does and what Disney does with their more racially insensitive cartoons. Like WB has the Censored 11. We all heard about it. And Tom and Jerry has racist cartoons. Pretty much any cartoon, pretty much in the 50s and back, was racist. Had either racist caricature of Black people, Asian people, namely Japanese people, what have you. Have a disclaimer that says this is a context. It's pretty much a time capsule about this time period. It has not been edited. We want you to see it so you can understand the context of what these were made under. You know, have a thing that says that you know now, but you're choosing to leave this up to, you know, highlight all the hard work that went into this or what have you. Like, just don't erase the guy from history, because when you start erasing it, that just is going to lead people to just completely forget about it and just kind of wipe it away. And then what's the point? You know, it's kind of like you need to have it somewhere where it's context, like a statue. You shouldn't just admire it just because without any context, especially if it has a historical context. Put that sucker in a museum with a little plaque so people can read it and they can get the full picture. And I also believe that a lot of the creators shouldn't. I don't think that they knew. I don't think a lot of them knew because that was their friend. You're not going to know a friend of yours is doing some really heinous shit unless they absolutely are not trying to hide it from you. And being something like a predator is really, I've come to find out, especially from hearing accounts of people that I personally know, it seems to be one of the really easiest things to kind of camouflage because you have a nice demeanor. You're very pleasant. You're a people person and you pull people in like that. You know, oftentimes we think of predators as being really creepy, kind of low down, greasy people, but that's not always the case. You know, we think of like maybe Chris Hansen's situation, but that's not always the case. Just like sexual assaulters, you never know. Like, I remember one guy who I went to high school with got caught with child porn. You never would have thought it because he was the class clown. Like, it's just ridiculous. I ain't there. But yeah, so overall, I wish the best of luck to these Channel Awesome creators as they go about doing what they need to do in their own separate endeavors. I feel really bad for the Anons in the Not So Awesome document. I feel bad for Juwario's family and wife. Rob and Doug, you need to get Mike out of there right now. I mean, right now. Like, he is going to bring you down. But all right, you guys, that's it. This stream will be archived. Please be civil in the comments below. Please. And don't, you know, just be civil, even in regards to, you know, the family of Justin. Please just Be civil. All right, I'll see you guys later.